So I'm curious, Goose, from your experience, I know that you've sort of talked to people who haven't had a great property experience, people who might have gone a business model that might not have suited their situation, stuff like that. Is there sort of some pitfalls or some things that people should be avoiding or some considerations to make on this whole sort of journey? I know that we're sort of talking about, hey, these are everything that's available, and we're talking about time and stuff like that. Is there anything that people should really sort of avoid or consider?
I actually think that you actually just talked about it, right? Because where I've seen a lot of people go wrong is that they enter into business models that they actually don't understand, right? So I can think of one really great example of a guy who his name is Luke, and man, is such a passionate property investor. If you spoke to him, you'd be thinking like, this guy is just like, he's just all he talks about is property investing. Property investing all day long, loves it, just totally mad for it. Turns out, though, he's only got one property. Not that that's a bad thing. Not that there's no ego metric around that. The actual bad thing, though, is that he's only got one property and he's held it for like a number of years, and he got stuck on the first property, right? He got stuck on the first property. And the reason he got stuck on the first property is because he thought, oh, you know what I need to do is I need to buy a property that's got a massive block, right? And I'm going to do a development on it because that's how you make money in property. Never bought an investment property before, didn't know what he was doing, but he just thought that was the key, right? I thought that starting an Uber or something was the way to go. So he bought this property, and ostensibly not in a bad place. Like he kind of like chose location pretty well, and actually had a look at all this with him as well. But here's the problem. He had no more borrowing capacity left. He couldn't actually, like the property didn't produce enough income for him to be able to get to extend his borrowing capacity. So he got stuck, couldn't buy any more properties. Also didn't have the capital to be able to actually do the development or even to go like to get. So he basically has just sat there with one asset for like three years or whatever it is, and hasn't been able to move forward. And that is just one example of what happens when you get the business model wrong. And statistically speaking, 71% of property investors never get past the first property, right? 19% never get past the second property. These are stats from the ATO. I'm not just kind of making these up as random, numbers, which means that 90% of property investors never get past two properties, right? But in that first portion, 71% never get past the first one. That's because they choose the wrong business model. They go, yeah, I want to get into property, and then they might buy a negatively geared asset, or they might try and go straight to do developments or something like this. So really, kind of taking that step back and fundamentally trying to understand what business do you want to get into is actually the key, right? And I think that's kind of where most people go wrong.
It's kind of like he's found a great SaaS idea. Got all the patents and everything. He's got basic code, but it's like can't actually afford to hire any coders to come and make the product. So it's just stuck in a zombie business model.
Exactly. And in fact, and this is really interesting. Just another little anecdote. I was talking to a business owner friend of mine a while ago who at the time he had a coaching business, right? So but it was quite active, right? So he had to show up and coach people, and it was good. It was profitable, and whatever. That he was like, oh man, you know what? I think I'm just going to buy a SaaS business because I want a reliable recurring revenue stream. I just want the hands-free thing. And I was like, hang on a second. Everyone wants that. So the valuations are really, really high and the actual cash flow is really, really low, often negative. I was like, you have a cash flow business. His name is Ben. I was like, you already have a cash flow business, right? So you kind of need to think about this a little differently. But yeah, just trying to understand that little piece of like, what business do I want to get into and why, and how does it fit within the broader scheme of what I'm trying to achieve is, I think, fundamentally the key.
Hey, fellow business owner, if this topic and value-packed short video has resonated with you at all, and you want to dive deeper into being a full stack business owner, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now.